All right, so let's talk about something huge. We're going to dive into how a single European regulation is, believe it or not, forcing a complete overhaul of enterprise technology all around the globe. This isn't some far-off prediction, it's happening as we speak. You know, for as long as I can remember, the mantra for business tech has been super simple, right? Go faster, scale bigger, be cheaper. That's been the game. Well, that game is changing. There's a new mandate on the table, and it's shifting the entire goalpost from pure efficiency over to something called carbon accountability. And let me tell you, this is not a minor update. We're talking about a whole new rulebook. Okay, so to really get why this is such a shock to the system, we've got to rewind a little bit and look at the old way of doing things. I mean, let's be honest, in the traditional world of enterprise tech, sustainability data, that was something for the annual report. It was completely separate, basically an afterthought. And smack dab in the middle of this whole thing is a regulation called the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. You'll hear it called CBAM. Now, your eyes might glaze over at regulation, but hold on. This is not just another piece of paper. It's actually the first global system that takes carbon emissions and turns them into something, well, something like a digital asset. Something you can measure, audit, and here's the kicker, something you can bill for. Yeah, this quote just hits the nail on the head. Carbon data, it's literally being pulled out of that glossy annual ESG report and plugged directly into the nuts and bolts of the business. Your supply chain, how you buy things, your financial planning. It's not just a nice-to-have metric anymore. It's becoming a variable in every single transaction. And that's what makes CBAM such a game changer. It's the catalyst. It's the thing that comes in and just completely smashes that old, comfortable model of, oh, we'll deal with the carbon stuff later. Nope, later is now. I mean, look at this. It's the perfect before and after shot. The before was, someone in a department manually pulling together data once a year for a report. The after, the new reality, it's a full-blown carbon infrastructure built right into the core systems, constantly spitting out verified, real-time intelligence. So this all begs a really important question, doesn't it? If this is the new reality, why are all these massive, incredibly expensive IT systems, the ones companies have spent billions on over the years, suddenly not up to the task? Why are they failing? Well, the answer is that there's this huge structural gap. It's like the systems were never wired to talk to each other about the stuff. Your main financial systems are over here, and your sustainability goals are way over there. They were never meant to connect. Your supply chain data is all over the place, scattered across different vendors. And your ERP system, the digital brain of the company, it was built from the ground up to count dollars and cents, not kilograms of carbon. So, okay, the old way is broken. The gap is staring us right in the face. And what that tells us is that slapping on a new tool or a new piece of software isn't going to cut it. We need a whole new blueprint, a completely new architectural layer built for this exact purpose. And that solution is what we're calling the CBAM Compliance Stack. And I want to be really clear, this is not just another app you download. It's a whole new layer of tech architecture that has to sit on top of everything: finance, operations, procurement, and it completely redefines how a company even thinks about and manages its data. All right, so Compliance Stack sounds cool, but what does it actually do? What's inside? Let's peel it back layer by layer and see what makes it tick. Okay, so there are basically 5 key layers here. You can think of them like Lego bricks building up this new structure. You got your carbon accounting systems, then supply chain traceability, ERP integration, digital MRV, which is just a fancy way of saying monitoring, reporting, and verification, and then at the top, carbon pricing engines. Let's take a quick look at each one. So, layer 1, carbon accounting. The old way was you'd have some dashboard somewhere with pretty charts. That's not good enough anymore. The new way demands the same level of seriousness as your financial books. We're talking about a parallel financial ledger, but for carbon, where every single entry can be audited, traced back to its source, and verified. Next up, supply chain traceability. It used to be about where's my package and how much did it cost to ship. Now, your systems have to be able to treat your entire supply chain like a computational object. What that really means is you need a digital twin of your supply chain, so you can run simulations and instantly recalculate the carbon footprint if, say, a supplier changes or a shipping route is different. It's incredibly dynamic. Then we get to layer 3, ERP integration. The ERP has always been the single source of truth for money, right? The system of record. Now it has to grow up and become a carbon governance engine. It's got to be able to attach carbon data to everything, every product, every invoice, every customs form. The ERP itself has to become carbon aware. Okay, so you've got all this new data flowing in. How on earth do you trust it? How do you prove it's real? That's where Layer 4 digital MRV comes in. We're getting rid of the old way of doing manual spot checks once in a while. This is about building an automated engine of trust, something that's always on, always monitoring, and creating a digital, verifiable audit trail for everything. And finally, the top layer that ties it all together, carbon pricing engines. This is where carbon stops being some vague, abstract idea and becomes a hard number that drives strategy. These engines are what let companies ask, what if we source from Vietnam instead of Turkey? What does that do to our carbon cost? They help you calculate your liabilities and make massive decisions about who you buy from and how you price your products. Look, I know what you're probably thinking. This sounds like a massive, expensive regulatory headache, and you're not wrong. But if you only see it that way, you're missing the real story here. Because buried inside all this complexity is a massive, hidden strategic advantage. This is probably the most important point of this whole explainer. CBM isn't just a regulatory burden. Think of it as a catalyst. It's a forcing function. It's the thing that shines a giant spotlight on all the cracks in your current systems and forces you to build something way smarter, way more connected, and way better. Yeah, exactly. This quote just sums it up perfectly. The companies that lean into this, the ones that really take on this architectural challenge, they're not just ticking a box for the government. They're actually building brand new muscles, new capabilities that are going to give them a huge leg up on the competition. So, what does that competitive edge actually look like? Well, for starters, you get a level of visibility into your own operations you've never had before. You can start optimizing your supply chain not just for cost, but for carbon efficiency. You can price your products with surgical precision. And imagine walking into a negotiation with a supplier armed with ironclad data on their carbon footprint. That is real enterprise intelligence. So let's just leave you with this one final thought to chew on. As all of this unfolds over the next few years, the big question for any enterprise isn't going to be, are we compliant? I mean, you have to be. The real question, the billion-dollar question, is going to be, is our architecture carbon native? Because the companies that can honestly answer yes to that, well, those are the ones that are going to own the future.